13 a 10. 95% of our clients do not have us do that. They do the funding on their own. And you would find that with the funding toolkit that we give you, it's really a piece of cake. So let's summarize this trust. Here it is. John and Mary have created it. And that answers the first question. Who creates this trust? They do. Who owns it? They do. Who designates the beneficiaries? They do. Who designates the successor trustees? They do. And what's a successor trustee? Well, keep in mind that when John and Mary build this trust, they are the managers of everything in it and attached to it. And we call the managers of a trust the trustee or trustees. John and Mary would be co-trustees. But if they die or get sick, they better have somebody else in the wings written into this trust saying who they want to be the successor trustees to run the show for them. They have control over that choice, not the court. Who pays income taxes on the property in this trust? They do. The trust does not file a separate tax return. The trust does not get a separate tax ID number. We file our taxes just the way we always have when we have a trust. We use our 1040 or joint 1040, and we report all income using our Social Security numbers. No extra tax return, no extra tax ID number. Who has the power to change who ultimately the beneficiaries would be in this trust? Well, they do. You see, a trust acts like a will at death. It pours out the assets to the beneficiaries as you choose. So it acts like a distribution tool at death, much like a will would. And you have the power to determine who gets what at what time. And if you don't like the trust for any reason whatsoever, you can cancel it or revoke it. So therefore, who has 100% control of all of the assets in the trust? They do. And if you had a trust, you would. So the trust becomes a very user-friendly tool that will avoid courts in the event of your disability and in the event of your death. In other words, a living trust will avoid a living probate and a death probate. But it will do so only if it is funded. So the two-step process is you must build it and then you must fill it. 20. The family really loves this Hawaiian vacation condo that they've had for years, but they want to make sure it doesn't turn out to be a big problem for anybody later on, because kids have a tendency to fight over property when it's left unsupervised very well. So if you've got a piece of property like this, such as Mary and John have, you need to consider protecting it so it doesn't destroy the family later. And what you want to do is you want to take a look at what we call the Vacation Property Preservation Trust. That's option number 5. If you don't have a vacation property or a special property, you know, like a cabin in Bailey, you need to make sure that it works for your family and can stay in the family for years. If you don't have this kind of property, you're going to score that a 1. If you do have this kind of property, you want to consider close to a 10. 21, because John and Mary want to leave some money for Danny, their autistic son, what should they be doing to make sure he can get some money to help him, but that money won't disqualify him from Medicaid or SSI benefits? Well, you've got to put together a special trust, and that's option 6. It's called the Special Needs for Special Kids Trust and is critical for leaving money or property to anybody in your family that may be suffering a disability. You can't leave money to them outright, free of trust. You must leave money in a trust that protects it and protects their government benefits. What are we going to do about Buddy and little girl Kitty? Those are the two pets that John and Mary absolutely adore. They want us to put something specific in their trust that will make sure they're cared for financially in the event they die and those pets live on. And we can do so, and under Colorado law, it's legal to create what we call the Furry Friends and Family Trust, which is option number 7. Colorado law allows for pet trusts. If you're a pet lover, and many of our clients are, you can score option 7 if it's appealing to you. 23. Here is a huge opportunity to make certain that your children and grandchildren get a big tax break. If John and Mary want to preserve the very important stretch out of tax benefits on their IRAs for their children, they would augment their trust with what's called the stretch out preservation supplement, which is option number 3. IRAs are probably the best tax gift the government has ever given us. And when you combine that with the Roth option and the ability to stretch out the tax savings over the life expectancies of our children and grandchildren, why, it's almost too good to believe. But unless you design your trust properly and make sure your IRAs are tended to correctly, you're going to lose this stretch out. You get it if the trust is augmented with special provisions and you have special designations of beneficiaries on these IRAs. We want the IRAs to go into the trust for the benefit of our kids, and we have to design the beneficiaries specifically to make that happen so everything works out. There's another kind of stretch out tool that we use called an IRA stretch out preservation trust, which is a standalone trust that is used when we have clients who have fairly risk-prone children, maybe like Bart, who's an alcoholic. We want extra asset protection for the IRAs, and we can get that through a special standalone trust, which is option 4. If any of you have an interest in this and are getting an inkling this is something that would appeal, I can provide you with the paper and some articles about stretch IRAs that will help illuminate this topic for you. But for now, I'm going to leave it at this. All I want to say is if you have an IRA that would probably end up being divided up $50,000 minimum per beneficiary, you need to take a look at either the supplement or the trust to protect the tax benefits. Many of my clients have most of their wealth now in 401ks or IRAs. So it becomes a very important planning consideration when you're doing your